Coming up on Arirang News. Former U.S. President Donald Trump accepted the Republican nomination at the end of a 4-day convention in Milwaukee on Thursday, where he underlined unity during his lengthy speech. Biden, in contrast, is seriously taking calls to step down as the Democratic presidential candidate. South Korea on Friday resumed loudspeaker broadcasts toward North Korea for the second day in a row as a response to the North sending another round of filth-filled balloons against the South on Thursday night. A massive cyber outage linked to Microsoft disrupted flights, banks, and even media outlets around the world on Friday. The U.S.-based online security firm CrowdStrike's program was reportedly among the attributing issues, whose CEO ruled out a cyber attack. Welcome to the 9 p.m. edition of Arirang News. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. We begin in the U.S., where former President Donald Trump has formally accepted the Republican Party's presidential nomination, delivering a speech for the first time since he survived a recent attack on his life, which lasted for over 90 minutes. Ian explains in detail.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump formally accepted the Republican Party's nomination to run for president at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Thursday evening local time. Wearing a bandage, Trump gave his first speech since the failed assassination attempt at Saturday's rally, where he was wounded by a bullet. He expressed that he was here only by the grace of Almighty God. During his speech, Trump promised to end every single international crisis that the current administration has created and restore the respect towards the United States. Warning that the world is teetering on the edge of World War III, he vowed to address and change the situation if elected. He also mentioned the raging wars in Europe and the Middle East and conflicts in Asia, including Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines. Pointing out the importance of getting along with certain leaders, including those who possess significant nuclear capabilities, Donald Trump mentioned his positive relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Adding that he gets along with the North's leader, Trump suggested that Kim probably misses him. Trump placed emphasis on the economy and inflation and criticized the Biden administration's foreign policy, saying it was destroying the country. Referring to an invasion of migrants crossing the southern border, Trump revealed his plans to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Trump has also proposed a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods in an effort to protect American industries. Donald Trump has been nominated for the third time in a row as the Republican presidential candidate. Trump ended his speech of more than an hour and a half by calling for unity.
And quite simply put, we will very quickly make America great again.
Whether he will be in a possible rerun against Joe Biden in November's election is uncertain, as the incumbent president is facing increasing pressure from within his party not to run. Lee Eun-hee, Arirang News.
In the meantime, reports say President Biden is taking calls to drop out of the race seriously while he is resting and reflecting this weekend as he recuperates from COVID. Cha Eun-kyung has more.
U.S. President Joe Biden is taking calls to step down as a Democratic presidential candidate seriously, according to Reuters on Wednesday, citing sources familiar with the matter. It is known that multiple Democratic officials think that Biden's exit is a matter of time. The U.S. president had previously pushed back defiantly against calls to resign. However, he's now reportedly soul-searching after leading Democrats and lawmakers, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, have urged him to drop out. Leading Democrats have all expressed deep concerns directly to Biden in recent days that there is a great possibility of losing the White House and also the risk of the party being unable to win back the U.S. House of Representatives in the November 5th election. The change in position by the Democrats mostly comes from private polling results. Party leaders have been shocked by the negative response of the public, who've said that Democratic leaders are not being honest about Biden's mental health. In particular, a top White House source with direct knowledge of the matter says that former House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi has privately backed President Biden to step aside. Dan Mellison, a public policy professor at the Pennsylvania State University, says these calls for Biden to step down probably mean the Democratic leaders have been unable to convince him in private.
I think that's a big deal, especially for someone like Nancy Pelosi, to have her conversation come out in the news, even though it didn't come directly from her, as, you know, she maybe didn't get as far as she wanted with the president in that conversation, and now there's greater public pressure.
Meanwhile, Democratic lawmakers plan to run election campaigns with Vice President Kamala Harris being lined up as an alternative. President Biden will have a public event in California next week if he recovers from COVID-19. Cha Young-kyung, Arirang News.
In France, Ursula von der Leyen has secured the reins of the European Commission for a second term amid complicated geopolitics. Ian has more.
The European Commission's first female president, Ursula von der Leyen, has been re-elected for a second term in a secret ballot vote at the European Parliament in Strasbourg on Thursday. She took a comfortable majority, winning 401 of the 707 votes that were cast from the current 719-member chamber. She said the next 5 years will define Europe's place in the world for the next 5 decades, and that it will decide whether Europe shapes its own future or lets it be shaped by events or by others.
We are working all together for a strong Europe. We're working on the topics of prosperity and competitiveness in our economy, social fairness because we have a social market economy. We're working on protecting people, so security and defense, but the most important is the overarching topic of strengthening our democracy. Our democracy is under attack from inside and from outside, and therefore it is crucial that the democratic forces stand together to defend our democracy.
Addressing Parliament before the election, von der Leyen vowed to create a true European defense union with flagship projects on air and cyber defense, and to continue to support Europe's green transition. She laid out a program focused on prosperity and security, shaped by the challenges of Russia's war in Ukraine, global economic competition, and climate change. Von der Leyen also promised tighter EU border controls and stronger police cooperation against crime. But it won't be until October at the earliest that a new EU Commission will be ready to propose new laws and change existing ones. In the coming weeks, von der Leyen will propose her team of commissioners coming from each of the 27 EU member states. National governments are expected to put forward their candidates by early August, which will begin the months of hearings and the questioning of nominees for conflicts of interest, as the full College of Commissioners then need to be endorsed by Parliament. Ian, Arirang News.
Vietnamese state media has this evening reported the death of its Communist Party chief, Nguyen Phu Trong. Nguyen had faced health challenges in recent months and died on Friday at the age of 80. President Du Lam had already assumed Trong's duties on Thursday, citing the need for medical treatment. Since 2011, Trong has been a dominant figure in Vietnamese politics, and his term was set to run until 2026. Here on the local front, South Korea's military has resumed its loudspeaker broadcast this afternoon in response to North Korea's refloating of waste-carrying balloons across the border. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-sil has the details.
For the second day in a row, South Korea's military responded strongly to North Korea's latest balloon provocations. From around 4 p.m. on Friday, the military resumed the loudspeaker broadcasts over the border against the North. The broadcast includes commentaries on topics the North regime is especially sensitive about, including criticizing the ruling Kim family and promoting capitalism. The military said in a statement that Friday's decision came as it has observed the signs of the regime preparing to send more balloons over the border. It said the move blatantly violated the armistice agreement and called the act low and disgraceful, which came despite severe rain damage affecting residents in both Koreas. On Thursday night, the military continued broadcasting until early Friday morning as more balloons were spotted in northern Gyeonggi-do province late Thursday. Most carried paper trash, posing no threat, the military said. Pyongyang's balloon provocations follow a warning by the North Korean leader's powerful sister Kim Yo-jong earlier this week. She said South Korean leaflets were found in the north and vowed to retaliate. Civic groups, mainly consisting of North Korean defectors organizations, have been sending leaflets to the north since last year, as the South Korean government has not tried to prevent them from doing so.
We're approaching the issue of distributing leaflets in consideration of the Constitutional Court's decision ensuring freedom of expression. The government maintains close collaboration with relevant agencies and is committed to managing the situation effectively.
Some experts say Seoul may need to reevaluate the situation.
There's a need for the government to reevaluate the situation of condoning the distribution of leaflets by some North Korean defectors organizations to protect the lives and safety of the border residents and also to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula.
Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Amid growing cooperation between Russia and North Korea, the vice foreign ministers of South Korea and China are to have high-level strategic talks next Wednesday in Seoul. According to the Foreign Ministry, First Vice Foreign Minister Kim Hong-kyun and his Chinese counterpart Mao Jiao-shi will discuss bilateral cooperation on regional and global issues. It will be the 10th meeting of its kind, but first in 2 years and 7 months, as the last one was held online in December 2021. The talks follow the agreement to reactivate diplomatic and security communication channels after President Yoon Suk-yeol and Chinese Premier Li Qiang had a one-on-one meeting in May. Heavy rain sweeping through central South Korea this week has caused widespread damage to homes and left many people in need. From Tuesday to 6 a.m. Friday, 455 houses were flooded in 11 cities and provinces nationwide, and around 2,000 residents had to be evacuated, with nearly half of them still unable to return home. In Jeollanam-do and Gyeonggi-do provinces, farmland equivalent to around 900 football fields were submerged. Paju in northern Gyeonggi-do province recorded the heaviest rainfall as of 5 a.m. Friday, with a total of 640 millimeters, while about 280 millimeters fell in northeastern Seoul. With the monsoon season likely to hit its peak this week, our correspondent An Sung-jin went out to see how flood-prone areas are looking to prevent damage.
Water sweeps through the streets. It soon fills every inch of the road, taking with it any object in its way, even people.
That's the road where a man died. The intersection heading down that way.
Water reached up to my shin while I was working, so most of the stores in the basement saw damage. I couldn't go home because the entire area was flooded.
This is a glimpse of what happened 2 years ago when heavy rain swept through, blocking off buildings and roads, causing chaos. Since then, people in the area fear that the same thing will happen again.
That manhole cover bounced off. We were so surprised. Then whenever it rains, it starts to stress me out. I still have a trauma from then.
Now the janitor brings out the water barrier to make sure that rain doesn't leak into restaurants and buildings. Some experts say the geographical layout is a factor as the area is low-lying. But one professor says that there is another crucial during times of heavy downpours.
As I said, if there is a problem with the drainage system in the city, and if it's left as it is, the same problems will occur every year. If leaves or trash gets clogged up, it needs to be cleaned out quickly by local district offices.
2 years ago, this area of Gangnam-gu district in capital Seoul saw massive damage from flash floods. Every year, flood-prone areas of the city face some degree of damage. How are cities trying to prevent this through an effective drainage system? There are many ways to keep the city's drainage system working and protect people's lives when flooding starts. For instance, local business owners like pharmacist Kim Young-nan would head out to the storm drain in front of her shop to make sure that it wasn't clogged.
If the storm drain is covered, the area becomes more flood-prone, so it needs a lot of attention.
Especially during the summer when it rains a lot, Kim says she puts extra effort to make sure.
It only takes a minute or two, and just a little bit of attention can reduce the damage. I started to help out to prevent further flooding.
Just like her, the district of Nuwongu cooperates with more than 2,000 different business owners to keep the storm drains clean by appointing them as protectors.
Previously, it would take 2 to 3 days for us to go around and check the drains. Now, with the help of these people, from receiving the report to fixing it can be done within a day. These people have volunteered to help take care of these storm drains.
They also added QR codes for each of the drains in the district to establish a more organized system to report any that aren't functioning properly. On average, around 20 reports come in daily. According to the National Disaster Management Research Institute, if the storm drain is covered even slightly more than half, the possibility of flooding doubles. Water can often spill out from manholes with the covers floating away. To prevent casualties, cities have implemented a preventive system. This metal plate, which can hold up to 400 kilograms, ensures that nobody falls through the manhole. These efforts are crucial, especially as South Korea this summer is looking to see one of its worst rainfalls yet, with 50% more precipitation compared to last year.
It's not necessarily that this year is the worst. Every year we may see stronger and stronger rain. If we look at the pattern for this year, the sea temperature around the peninsula is high, which constantly creates vapor, and there's an influx of low-pressure air from the west which clashes and creates rain clouds.
Meteorological predictions are difficult to make. No matter how many times we check weather apps, weather forecasts are rarely precise. What's important is keeping track of what's happening in real time and responding with proper measures. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Disruption to Microsoft cloud services caused havoc all around the world, with many people being met with the so-called blue screen of death while using their computers. It went beyond that, with over 1,000 flights being cancelled and outages at banks and media outlets. This was due to a defect in a Windows system update by the cybersecurity platform CrowdStrike. In South Korea, some low-cost airlines and online game servers were affected. However, most South Korean companies, including public institutions and major corporations like Incheon International Airport and Samsung Electronics, were not affected because they used their own servers or domestic cloud services due to security concerns. Microsoft said Friday that most of its services have been recovered. In other news, with exports of ramyeon showing an upward trend in recent months, companies are looking for ways to keep this momentum going forward. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us how.
More than 2 million packs of ramyeon are produced at this factory each month, and more than 400,000 of them are shipped overseas. But these figures are unsurprising as exports of South Korea's ramyeon surged more than 30% to reach nearly $600 million in value during the first half of the year.
At this ramen factory, you can see how in certain steps of the production process, how South Korean companies have begun to target directly overseas consumers to keep this momentum going.
The Seoul metropolitan government has teamed up with this local company to release Seoul ramyeon both domestically and abroad in hopes that ramyeon becomes a food that the capital city becomes known for globally. To further cement its popularity, they have produced ramyeon that's not just delicious but also healthy by using non-fried noodles instead of the more common fried noodles. Non-fried ramyeon noodles, just like the ones that are fried, also take on the famous wavy form that allows them to be cooked almost instantly. But instead of frying the noodles after they're steamed at high temperatures, they're dried by hot air. Each batch is air-cooled inside these machines before being dropped to conveyor belts below where they're packaged to be shipped abroad. But in their global expansion efforts, companies are at a crossroads of whether they should pursue a localized or a standardized marketing strategy. Whether to localize our products was our biggest concern, but we've recently decided to deliver the most authentic taste to our global consumers. And we've done so by using Korea's Cheongyang chili pepper in our soup. Still others have decided to localize some of their products. 불닭 ramen, which went viral on social media, has flavors only available overseas, such as the habanero lime 불닭, which was developed solely for North and South American consumers.
I think localization is a good strategy, but companies should also promote traditional Korean flavors as well, perhaps through TikTok challenges.
In the future, according to the expert, the key to continuing the export growth will be figuring out various ways to effectively market ramyeon that remains authentic in its taste. 이수진, Arirang News.
Even while serving in the South Korean military, BTS member Jimin dropped his new solo album on Friday. This is his first release since March last year when his debut solo album Face came out. MUSE is comprised of 7 love-themed songs, including the lead single Who. A pre-recorded performance of the song will be aired on NBC's The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon next Tuesday at 12:35 p.m. Korea time. Jimin was a guest on the show last March and performed the lead track Like Crazy from his solo debut album. In sports news, Korea's table tennis team is looking to turn the tide at the Paris Olympics by restoring its earlier glory. Our Choi Soo-young explains.
Table tennis was first included as an official event at the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Since then, South Korea has won a total of 18 Olympic medals, including 3 golds, ranking second overall in Olympic table tennis history. However, after a golden era in the late 1990s and early 2000s, South Korea's performance declined in the 2010s, falling behind countries including China, Japan, and Germany. Even in the 2016 Rio and 2020 Tokyo Olympics, South Korea didn't claim any medals. But after the Tokyo Olympics, their competitiveness sharply improved through a newly launched professional table tennis league here. In results, at the Hangzhou Asian Games last year, the team won a total of 8 medals. Jeon Ji-hee, the oldest of the women's team and the Hangzhou Games women's doubles champion with her partner Shin Yu-bin, is competing in a 3rd Olympics in Paris. She became a South Korean citizen in 2011 after moving from China and is determined to give her everything in what will be her last Olympics.
After Tokyo, this Paris Olympics feels very close since it's being held just 3 years later. I will work hard to make up for the disappointment from Tokyo.
The team's morale is better than ever. Shin Yu-bin, who will compete in the women's team event and mixed doubles, has become a key player since her Olympic debut in Tokyo. She and her partner Im Jong-hun aim for gold in the mixed doubles.
My goal is to play without regrets, trusting in the hard training I've put effort into. I'll do my best to show my best performance, so please cheer for us.
In Paris, Jeon, Shin, and Lee Eun-hye will compete in the women's events, and Im, Chang Woo-jin, and Cho Dae-sung will compete in the men's events, aiming to win at least 3 medals. New hope is being kindled, starting from the 27th. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
In Seoul, the rain has stopped and the hot weather continues. However, up to 150 millimeters of water bomb rain is predicted throughout the country starting from tomorrow. Up to 50 millimeters per hour is predicted in the Seoul metropolitan area and the Chungcheongdo provinces, and up to 30 millimeters per hour in southern inland areas. Up to 100 millimeters is predicted in Seoul. With heavy rain pouring, the ground has become very weak. Currently, the landslide crisis warning is at alert level in the Jeollado provinces and Gyeongsangbuk-do province. Please pay attention to any landslide damage. The morning will start off in the mid-20s tomorrow in most areas. Highs will move up to 27 in Seoul and Chuncheon, Gyeongju and Jeju, 33 degrees. Rain will persist throughout the country next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. That's all we have for today. Thank you for watching. Arirang News will be back on Monday, 9 a.m. Korea time.